January 2022, a brand you've probably walked past in the grocery store did something that made the entire D2C world pay attention. They launched with zero paid ads, no meta campaigns, no Google Shopping, and no influencer contracts. And they sold out their entire inventory in 7 days, pulling in over $100,000 in revenue. By month 3, they crossed over $500,000. The product? Olive oil. No fashion, no supplements, just plain olive oil. This brand was projected to have generated $48.4 million in 2024. By the end of 2025, it reached a valuation of $250 million. And yes, the brand is Graza, and what they pulled off is not just a cool marketing story. It's a marketing blueprint that you can steal pieces from, whether you're selling skincare, food, supplements, or anything in between. And the craziest part, their email marketing strategy is something that most e-commerce brands overlook, and it's one of the biggest reasons they've scaled to 8 figures and landed at shelves at Whole Foods, Target, Costco, and Walmart. My name is Hussam, founder of PowerMyMarketing.com, an e-commerce email and SMS retention agency. I've been in business for 16 years and in e-com for over 12. And in the past few years, we helped 40 plus brands double, triple, and in some instances, 13x their email revenue in as little as 30 days. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 4 pillars of Graza's marketing strategy. The first pillar is their product positioning and how they made a boring product feel exciting. The second one is their launch playbook and how they managed to generate massive demand without spending $1 on ads. The third one is their content ecosystem and how they turned a blog and social media into a conversion engine. And the fourth one is their email and retention machine that keeps customers coming back and significantly increases their lifetime value. And by the way, stick around till the end because the fourth pillar is one that 90% of e-com brands ignore, and it's arguably why Graza is continuing to scale year over year. So let's get straight into it. Let's talk why this matters for you. You might be thinking, hey, cool story, but I don't sell olive oil. Why should I care about a squeeze bottle company? Here's why. The olive oil market is one of the most commoditized, boring, impossible to differentiate categories in all of grocery. Glass bottles, fake Italian heritage, and zero personality. If someone can take a product that unsexy and turn it into a cultural moment that brings in 8 figures in revenue, the principles behind it apply to any product in any category, especially competitive ones. And here's the thing that makes this even more relevant to you. Graza did not only go viral and then disappear. They built retention systems, whether it's on the product side, distribution, or marketing, that turned one-time buyers into repeat customers. They're now the 5th largest olive oil brand in the United States, and they are roughly responsible for a quarter of the entire category's growth. That does not just happen from a viral moment. That happens from solid back-end infrastructure that most e-commerce brands fail to set up correctly. So first, let's talk about the product positioning or the unique selling propositions. In terms of the product, Graza is produced in this place called Jaén in Spain, which actually produces 50% of the world's olive oil, and it comes from a single varietal Picual olive. So this is basically the strain of the olive oils, which has a higher smoke point, which means people can cook with it. It has a longer shelf life, which means that it can stay on the shelves for longer, and it has a punchier flavor than most brands. So how does Graza compare to the competition? They are single origin, cold pressed immediately after harvest, and the cool thing is that they print the harvest date on every single bottle they sell, so people can know exactly when this olive oil has been harvested. For the competition, 75% of the extra virgin olive oil sold in the United States, it's either fraudulent or blended. And a lot of these brands, they just hide behind Italian flags and fake heritage. So in terms of positioning in the market, Graza found the sweet spot. So they are not a cheap oil. So these are basically oils that are either fraudulent or blended. So basically they put a little bit of extra virgin olive oil so they can say that on the label, but then they blend it with other cheap oils. But they are also not boutique oils that cost like $40 or $50. So these are fancy bottles that people are afraid to use because they are so expensive. So they managed to find a sweet spot in the middle, which they call mass premium. So it's a very high-end quality premium oil, but it's not priced at $40 or $50 that makes you afraid to use it. And they have some really interesting taglines here. So the first one, they say good enough for a Michelin star chef, affordable enough to squeeze literally onto everything. They also say squeezed, not saved. And what they are trying to do here is to get people to use it more so they buy it more often. So their position in the market is that they have a low barrier to entry because they are not that expensive. And then most people try and like it, which leads to a higher usage, especially the way their bottle is designed. And then you have more people coming back, which increases your cash flow and customer lifetime value. In terms of differentiation, so they went the complete opposite way. So for example, the competition, if you go to a grocery store, you see a wall of identical looking glass bottles with Italian flags and gold labels. And with Graza, they went the complete opposite way. So they have this green bottle that has cartoons that stands out like a sore thumb on the shelves. They also had a brilliant average order value strategy. So instead of just selling one type of product, they actually bundle these two products, one which they call the sizzle, which is for cooking, and the other one is called the drizzle, which is basically for finishing. This helps them get a higher average order value and improve their cash flow as well. So one of my favorite quotes is attributed to Leonardo da Vinci, and he says, "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication." That's what Graza did with olive oil. They organized by use case and behavior and not by features. They actually did a study and they found that less 1% of people understand what extra virgin olive oil even means. So if you sell a product that has a lot of features, for example, instead of trying to highlight those features, which only a small percentage of your audience will understand, try to tie those features into benefits. So how those features are actually going to change your customer's life. So the other cool thing that they really did is the squeeze bottle effect. Again, they went the complete opposite way compared to other olive oils, and they put their premium olive oil in a squeezable plastic bottle. This is typically associated with cheap ketchup and mayonnaise bottles in some diners. And the reason this works incredibly well is that it removes friction. So just squeeze, no unscrewing with oily hands. So if you bought olive oil before, then you know that typically it drizzles all over the bottle and you have to wipe it every single time with a lot of bottles. And with this one, you just pick it up and squeeze. Super easy. The second thing is that it's visually very distinctive, so which makes it stand out on the shelves. And the third thing is that it doesn't live on cupboards. So for example, if you invite some guests, that would be the first topic of conversation because it really stands out. So the lessons here: stop competing on features your customers don't understand. Instead, compete on benefits and use cases. And the second one is compete on clarity and not confusion. So let's talk about their product evolution. So in January 2022, they launched with two main products. The first one is the sizzle. This is 750 milliliter cooking oil, mature olives, mellow flavor, high smoke point. So this is the oil that you cook with. And the second one is the drizzle, which is a 500 milliliter finishing oil. This is early harvest oil. So they basically produce this as early as possible after harvest, and it has a bold and peppery flavor. So these are the two products that they launched with. In 2023, they had this really interesting sustainability play, and they introduced refill cans. These are beer can style aluminum containers that are recyclable, which customers use to refill their bottles. So they knew that a lot of customers really cared about sustainability, and it didn't make a lot of sense for customers to keep buying these plastic products and then having to throw them. So these refill cans are better for sustainability, and they will help you only buy those plastic bottles once and then refill them with these beer style cans every single time you run out. In early 2024, they launched the Frizzle, which is a high heat oil made from extra virgin olive oil plus olive paste leftovers from the sizzle and drizzle production. This is very, very clever and resources because they are technically using a leftover from their other two products. The interesting thing here is that this oil handles up to 490 degrees Fahrenheit and is positioned as the replacement for canola oil. In 2025, they launched these glass bottle versions of sizzle and drizzle, which is very, very interesting because they started with the plastic bottles to stand out, and then basically they added these glass versions for retail shoppers who prefer glass. And they also launched a Frizzle spray, which is a cooking spray format. They also launched some mayonnaise, olive oil chips, 2-liter jugs for heavy users, and corporate gifting sets. So if you look at their product catalog, it actually represents a textbook product expansion strategy. So you basically nail the core SKUs and then expand to adjacent use cases, formats, and channels as well. And if you take a look at their website, you will always see that they prioritize kits or bundles. So they rarely advertise single products. They try to get their customers to buy the bundles so they can increase their average order value and cash flow as well. So let's talk about their branding. Their design was actually done by a Brooklyn agency called Gander, which built their identity from scratch. And two things stand out here. The first one is marker illustrations. And if you check their website, you will see they are all over the place, not just on the website, on their ads, on their emails. So they are using these illustrations all over the place. And the cool thing is that every illustration is actually hand drawn with actual markers on sticky notes. And then they scan them and use them digitally. So these are actually not vectors. So they are all hand drawn. And the second part of their design is that they use a lot of lo-fi photography. So they bring camcorders and disposable cameras to create these grainy, imperfect film-like imagery that feels spontaneous and not as part of a photo shoot. So they do this on purpose. In terms of colors, they use the chartreuse green as their main color, which is a vivid high energy color sitting exactly between green and yellow on the color wheel, which is also specifically designed by the French liquor of the same name. So in a category filled with dark greens and gold, Graza went the complete opposite way with this bright chartreuse green. This accomplishes two things. It makes them stand out on the shelves across the store aisle, and it also makes them stand out in social media because these bright saturated colors pop a lot in the feed. In terms of tone of voice, they position themselves as your friend who actually knows food. So the first pillar of their tone of voice is that they are casual and educational. Education disguised as fun, they are never preachy, and they sneak in real knowledge wrapped in personality. So for example, they say made for eating, never heating. This is for their drizzle. Use it every day in every way. This is for their sizzles. They are intentionally being playful and educational. The second one is weird on purpose. And this is very, very interesting. They try to be very quirky and weird on purpose. They have these random facts on their website, for example, or their emails, which makes you feel like you're hanging out with real people or real friends and not just a corporation. So you can see some of these facts about their products, and then they have these random facts here at the bottom. A chicken can live for months with its head cut off. Isn't that crazy? I don't know if this is true or not, but yeah, they have these random facts. Olives are actually a fruit and olive oil is their juice. So peak oil trees can be over 1,000 years old. They're called grandfathers, respect. So yeah, very quirky, very playful, very educational. And the third one is that they have a consistent personality that carries over across every single touch point. This is actually one of the very few brands that I really look forward to opening their emails. So let's go to the offer now. Like any e-com brand that offers subscriptions, they also try their best to get you into their subscription, and they position it as the subscription that feels good to forget. So they have zero friction, pick your product, set frequency, save up to 90%, fully flexible, swap, pause, skip, or cancel anytime through a self-serve portal. Then they have the second category, which is very, very interesting, surprise and delight. So starting from the third delivery, they actually give their subscribers complimentary bonus items, creating retention through unexpected rewards. So this is very, very important. Let's say, for example, you notice that a lot of your customers are churning by the 4th or 5th month, then it would make a lot of sense to try to surprise them maybe during the 3rd month to try to get them to stay for longer. And the third one is going to be smart defaults. So check out defaults to subscription with one-time purchase as an alternative. So they always try to prioritize that subscription. And this is a really good nudge that will help them increase their subscription rates without being too pushy. So if you take a look at their website, and let's say, for example, you go to the Duo glass here, you will notice that they always default to the subscription here, subscribe and save, and they show you how much you're going to be saving. They give you the frequency as well. So this is really cool because people can clearly see that they can buy one time or subscribe and save here. So one strategy that I highlighted before is that they always try to bundle to increase their cash flow and average order value as well. So if you check their ads, their website, or their emails, you will notice that they always try to prioritize selling their bundles because they know that this increases the average order value and cash flow as well. So this is something that you can implement for your brand as well. Now let's talk about their pricing versus competitors. So you have the generic supermarket products. They cost $8 to $12, likely fraudulent or blended, and they are very cheap. You have Graza as the second category here. Their sizzle product is for $16 and their drizzle product is for $20, which is actually still pretty affordable considering that they have one of the highest quality olive oils on the market. So they basically hit the affordable premium sweet spot. And then you have Costarina, for example, it costs $28 for a 500 milliliter bottle, which is very pricey. And then you have Brightland, which is a super premium brand, $40 for a 750 milliliter, which is very, very expensive. So yeah, they price themselves maybe in the middle here or even on the lower end, at least in terms of pricing. So let's talk about their launch playbook. So interesting thing is that they went from $0 to $100,000 in just 7 days. And the way they did it is they actually hired a food influencer called Kendall Dickinson, who executed a textbook guerrilla marketing strategy. So what she did is that she found these nano influencers. These are people below 25,000 followers. And she just sent them quirky DMs to get them to respond and also free bottles of Graza. Then when they got very, very close to the launch, she started contacting bigger influencers that have followings of 200,000 plus. They had a lot of social proof from those smaller influencers basically posting their content. So they had a better response rate from these bigger influencers. And by the way, she just contacted these people and sent them free products. So they had no contracts and no payments with these influencers whatsoever. So the results is that they managed to generate $100,000 in a single week and they sold out completely in 7 days. They had a 7.9% conversion rate from Instagram. They had a 429% engagement spike on social media, and they managed to scale to $500,000 in the first 3 months. So as you can see here, you don't need a massive budget to create demand. So let's talk about their core strengths when it comes to marketing. So you will notice here that they rely on 4 organic engines. The first one is influencer or creator gifting. They have over 300 creators at any given time, no contracts and no scripts. They also treat retail stores as influencers as well. For example, they send products to pet shops, toy stores, and specialty boutiques, etc. The second pillar is organic social. They heavily leverage UGC on Instagram and TikTok. And you will notice that they don't actually create this highly polished content. So they basically just reshare real people using their products in kitchens. The third pillar is that they use Klaviyo for their email marketing. So they have a lot of recipe-driven newsletters, segmented flows by purchase behavior, refill reminders, and a design philosophy that treats every single email like a music festival poster. And we're going to talk about their email marketing later. And the fourth pillar is their blog, which they call Glog. And this is actually the central hub of their entire content system. So they have these recipes from real chefs, they have olive oil education, cultural features, and SEO content that drives organic traffic. So let's talk about their ad strategy for a second here. They went from ad-free to ad-light. So January 2022, when they launched, they had no ads. They only relied on influencers, email, and social. By October 2022, they launched their first ads, and they managed to spend $306,000 from May 2023 to April 2024, which is actually nothing by D2C standards. In 2024, olive oil production costs have increased, which resulted in the majority of olive oil brands passing that cost on to their customers and raising their prices. However, Graza went the exact opposite way. Instead of them raising their prices, they decided to actually reduce their marketing budget from 12.5% to only 5%. By 2025, they had their biggest out-of-home campaign ever. So from January 2022 to late 2025, they relied mostly on organic, basically influencers, email, organic social, and some paid media, but it's small by any D2C standard here. Late 2025, when they launched their glass bottle, they had their biggest campaign ever, nearly 100 out-of-home placements in New York, Penn Station, Union Square, Wells Scrapes, billboards, etc. So they had a lot of ads on billboards, train stations, plus ads in the New York Times, on Meta, on YouTube, and they also hosted a surrealist dinner party experiential event. You will notice here that they are only running 67 ads, which is literally nothing. I mean, brands of their size are running hundreds and hundreds of ads simultaneously, and sometimes even thousands. In terms of their main offer that they try to promote is they offer a free frizzle spray with their trio bundle. So again, trying to increase their average order value. The focus is typically influencer collabs, recipes, cooking with Graza, educational hooks as well. So they say, for example, mayo's about 65% oil, which is why you gotta use the good stuff. They highlight that they have the harvest date on every single bottle, and they say that their olive oil is always fresh, never blended. This is Michelin quality olive oil that's made to be used. They also highlight and announce their retail side as well, for example, now at Whole Foods, and they focus a lot on sustainability. For example, nitrogen sealed and 100% recyclable. Our refill cans can keep your olive oil fresh as heck. So let's now check how many ads they are running on Google. So you'll notice here they are running approximately 300 ads, and a lot of them I would assume are retargeting because they just highlight the products or the bundles they are selling. And in some of them, they try to highlight specific features or benefits that people care about. Here they say Graza drizzle cold pressed, etc. So not a lot of ads by any D2C standard. So now let's talk about my absolute favorite part, which is email and retention. And this came from the CEO himself. He said email marketing provides everything: a chance to express your brand, talk to an engaged community, and stay relevant in a way that's incredibly economical compared to other channels. And that's coming from a guy who's running a brand who's doing multiple 8 figures. According to studies, email generates $38 for every $1 spent, according to VentureBeat, and it's 40 times more effective than social media at acquiring new customers, according to McKinsey. So email is incredibly economical compared to other channels. And their CEO also described their design goal for email as making every email feel like a music festival poster that you want to scroll all the way through. So they use bold colors, original photography, GIFs, and maximum use of Klaviyo's built-in features. In terms of the sign-up form, which is arguably one of the highest levers you can pull to generate more revenue for your brand, because the more of your valuable traffic that you potentially spent money acquiring, the more of it you can capture and convert into subscribers that you can nurture and turn into repeat customers, the more revenue your brand is going to be generating. So they use 4 psychological triggers on their sign-up. And if you're interested in knowing exactly how these work, I actually recorded a video that you will find in the description below. So these 4 principles are: the first one is self-identification. So they have different categories on their pop-up that people can self-identify with, and this significantly increases compliance rate. They also use the commitment and consistency principle. So instead of asking for the email directly, they are trying to get a micro commitment or a micro yes first, and this also increases opt-in rate. They also use mystery, so they don't say exactly what type of discount you're getting. Curiosity really works wonders here. And they also never ask for the email and SMS on the same page. They always use a multi-step opt-in. They try to get the email first. Once they get it, then they ask for the SMS. So even if someone does not give them their phone number, they still got their email. So you will notice here that every time we implemented these principles for our clients, we were able to significantly significantly increased their opt-in rate. So with the first client, he was getting a 4.22% opt-in rate using a Shopify app. Switched him to Klaviyo, implemented these principles. We were able to take him to 21.40%. Second client, he was getting a 2.38% opt-in rate. We managed to take him to 10.72%, which is a 4.5x. And third client, she was getting a 7.81 opt-in rate, and we were able to take her to 12.53%, which is a 60% increase. Again, if you're interested, I put the link of how we were able to 5x a client's email opt-in rate using these 4 principles. So just click on the link in the description after watching this video. The second interesting thing about their opt-in is that they use what's called a sticky teaser. So when you close their pop-up, you will actually get the sticky teaser at the bottom here that says a special discount. So this is really, really interesting because sometimes people land on the website and then they immediately see the pop-up and they close it because they need to find out more about the product. And then at some point, maybe if they are convinced or they really like the product, then they might be interested in the discount. And this teaser always stays at the bottom here. So when they are ready to place an order, then they click and opt in so they can get their discount. So by them using these strategies, they were able to grow their email subscribers by 39% and also grow their SMS subscribers by 377%. So let's talk about the next step once someone opts in into their email list, which is the welcome flow. So the first email here is a standard welcome email, and you will notice that in all of the emails, they have the offer at the top here. So now they finally reveal the offer and they say use code olive juice for free shipping on the trio $9 value. So it's really interesting that they don't actually offer a coupon or offer on their main products. They just give free shipping. So they are trying to not devalue their brand too much by offering discounts. So standard, they have at the top here, welcome, and then shop the trio. And you will notice that they always try to push either the bundle or the subscription here because they know the money is in the average order value and customer lifetime value. So they will never push single products here. The second email is more of an education type email, and they say picked, pressed, and bottled right here. They talk about the region where the oil comes from. And then again, they highlight the bundle at the bottom as well. The third email is a classic us versus the other guys or us versus them. And you will notice in all of the emails, they have the offer at the top here. So they basically try to reiterate it and repeat it for people who have forgotten. And yeah, this is actually one of the emails that we use a lot for our clients, whether it's on the campaign side, on the welcome flow, checkout abandonment, etc. Because a lot of people at this point are still doing competitive research, and it would help a lot with conversions if you can show exactly why your product is superior here. So yeah, they basically have a classic comparison table where they have their product against canola oil and expensive olive oils as well. So pretty standard. And at the bottom, they have a FAQ kind of section where people can click here to learn more in case you still have some questions. The fourth email is all about social proof. They highlight 3 of their best reviews in a rotating GIF here. And they say that they have 2,000 plus 5-star reviews, including 7 from our grandmas. Again, very consistent when it comes to their tone of voice. And at the bottom, they again highlight the starter kit. So I would actually love to see another CTA at the bottom here below this starter kit. Yeah, but it's still pretty good here. The final email is to promote their blog, which is called a glog. So this is the central hub for all of their content. Again, they still highlight the offer at the top here, but then they have some blog posts here. So recipes like perfectly fluffy olive oil scrambled eggs, best hostess gifts under $50, why put olive oil in a can, and sizzle, drizzle, or frizzle. So this is basically a comparison that educates their customers on which product does what. So pretty solid welcome flow here that has 5 emails. I would have probably liked to add a couple more emails, one about their availability in retail stores, for example, like Whole Foods or Walmart or something like that, so people know they are available in those stores, and one potentially how their features actually translate to benefits for their users. I'm not sure if they are trying to stay away from making health claims or something like that, but their olive oil has actually pretty good polyphenol content, which is proven to have health benefits. So I would have loved to see that email as well. So in terms of campaigns, they have 3 main categories. The first one is recipes, the second one is themed, and the third one is product launches. So for recipes, they send a lot of these emails. For example, the first one, salmon cakes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And they have a recipe where people can click and go to their blog or glog so they can learn how to cook this. They have this one, prep a Super Bowl. So it's basically a themed / recipe kind of email, and they have a few recipes here. The second type is going to be themed email. So this is basically for their Valentine's Day, and they say, heya, Grazoid, thinking about what to get your crush for Valentine's Day, and then they highlight their olive oil here. The second one is a graphic email where they say the perfect prez. So again, you'll notice that they don't actually offer discounts during those themed holidays. They try to just sell their products with themed messaging here. So they say the perfect prez, gift it, and then they have the bundle here and some themed messaging at the bottom here. The third most common email type that they send is product launches. So you will see here that they tease new product launches with emails before launching them. So this one was for their mayo product. They said, we're getting ready for something new. Perhaps it's time to clean out that fridge to make room for something refrigerated. So just to try to tease people, get them curious about the new product. And then they have their new mayo here in collaboration with Aioli, and they basically highlight the 3 mayonnaise products here. The third one is going to be their popcorn launch, and they say here that it's powered by Bjorn Corn. So they do a lot of product collabs actually with other brands as well. And the fourth one is a plain text email from the founder. So these work incredibly well for our clients as well. Andrew from Graza, are you ever going to go beyond olive oil, etc.? So this is for their mayonnaise product. And again, we love to send these personal plain text emails from the founders because they really connect with subscribers and also convert really, really well. So in terms of volume of how many emails they send per month, let's go to Milled here. This is a website where you can check the emails from a particular brand. So I typed in Graza here, and they say here that they have 455 emails archived since 2022, which is very impressive if you want to take a look at their progression, for example, from the first emails to now. And you can also get an idea about the type of emails they send and also the frequency. So if you have a bigger competitor in your space, you can come here, type in that competitor, and you can do a little bit of spying on them. So let's check, for example, how many emails they sent in January. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So yeah, basically 11 emails per month, which translates to about 3 emails per week. And this is the frequency we like to use for our clients as well. We send 2 to 3 emails per week. Again, for some bigger brands that have a lot going on, sometimes we like to send more emails. So now let's talk about how their emails are actually very different from their competitors and other brands in the space as well. And as I mentioned before, their email program is one of my absolute favorite ones in the e-com space. So the first feature of their emails is that they are very, very colorful. Again, bright, lively colors induce dopamine and get people addicted to your emails. They use a lot of visual cues. So instead of saying a lot of words, they try to use icons and visual cues to say more with less, to convey important points or unique selling propositions. They use a lot of GIFs as well, but you have to be very careful with the GIFs because you need to compress them. Otherwise, they're going to be too big and they will not load properly on your subscribers' inbox, but they still work incredibly well. You will also notice that they barely do any promos. Actually, they have only one promo that they have at the end of the year in Q4, and they launch it, I believe, in October before Black Friday. So they try to get people to buy their products while they still have money. I noticed that a lot of e-com brands leave it until the last week of Black Friday once people have already spent most of their money. However, they don't really do a lot of promos or sales, which is very important because these can devalue the brand long term. Another thing that I really like about their emails is that they use less words and more visuals because they know that people's attention spans are very short these days. So they don't have these huge paragraphs that people need to read through to understand a particular point. They try to explain their points with visuals instead of words. So in terms of the anatomy of their emails, they basically have 2 or 3 sections. So the first one is they have a tagline or headline at the top here. They have some visual elements or illustrations here, and then they have a strong photo that grabs attention, and just below it is the CTA. So they don't have a lot of text here, and the objective here is to try to get the click from those high intent people. So it's proven that when you have the CTA above the fold, you are more likely to get more clicks on that particular email. And then they have a second section where they actually expand on that first part in case people needed to know more. So they say here how to unbrizzle. They actually launched an umbrella, which is very, very interesting. And then they say stay dry in a drizzle, twirl in the rain, fly like Mary Poppins. So again, very consistent with their tone of voice here. And then at the very bottom, they have another CTA here. So their emails almost always lead to one destination, which is very, very important. If you try to distract people with multiple destinations, then they will get confused. It's very important to have one destination per email, and you will see that they have multiple CTAs for that same destination. So for example, they have one at the top above the fold, and they have one at the bottom. Sometimes they even have 3 sections if the product or the idea they are trying to talk about requires more clarification. So to sum up their strategy, they nailed the product and positioning first, and then they created branding and personality that stands out and works incredibly well in today's channels. They also collab with a lot of brands and influencers that align with their values so they can cross promote to each other. They use email to educate, entertain, engage, and empower. These are the 4 E's of content that we use for our clients as well. They don't use constant promos, and they amplify when they have a solid foundation. And I can really relate to this because I used to have e-commerce stores in the past, and the first ones that I started, I had this minimal viable product kind of store and tried to send paid traffic quickly without nailing the foundations first, and I ended up losing quite a bit of money on those stores. However, with the last store that I had, I decided to not launch it until I make sure everything is perfect in terms of branding, in terms of retention, the email program, etc. So I spent 3 months working on this store, and the day I launched it, I generated over $1,200 from paid ads. So this shows you that if you nail the foundations first, you're going to be able to scale more quickly later. Alex Hormozi has one of my absolute favorite quotes. So he basically says, go slow slow to go fast. And he has this analogy of building a townhouse versus a skyscraper. So with a townhouse is basically businesses that build quickly for short-term gains. They have a shallow foundation allowing them to build up fast, but they get stuck because they cannot add more stories without the building collapsing, versus trying to build a skyscraper where you spend the majority of your time on the foundation. So these are businesses built for longevity and massive scale. The builder spends the first 9 months digging deep and laying a massive foundation, appearing to make no progress while others are scaling. However, because of this deep, wide base, they can eventually build much higher than the townhouse. And it's the same analogy that if you wanted to cut a tree, spend 90% of your time sharpening the axe. So if you have an e-commerce brand and you'd like to maximize your ads ROAS, your website's conversion rate, your average order value, and your customer lifetime value, then we can help you achieve all of that with email and SMS. We will optimize your email and SMS program to increase your contribution margin and not just top-line revenue. If you're interested in increasing your profitability and continuing to scale year over year, then I'm happy to offer you a free in-depth audit of your email and SMS program. It's 8 to 10 pages of expert recommendations specifically tailored to your brand. I'm going to show you exactly what's missing, what could be improved, and how much more revenue you'll be able to generate when all of the improvements are implemented. So all you have to do is click on the link in the description to schedule a quick call with me. Our clients generate between 30 to 50% of their total revenue from email and SMS. You will see here Goodwood Audio. Before, he was getting a 6.93% attribution from email, and after working with us, we were able to take him to 62.84% attribution in just 30 days. And in terms of revenue, we were able to 13x his email revenue in just 30 days. And if you're interested, you can watch his video on our website at powermymarketing.com. For Whole3, we were able to take them from 12% to 40% of attributed email and SMS revenue. For Kingsman Premium, we helped Dana consistently stay over 40%, and we peaked at 53% during busy times. And if you'd like to watch these and more, check out our website at powermymarketing.com. If you found this video helpful, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. See you in the next one.